The great hall was silent. Cold light from the ceiling glowed on metal walls. The floor was stained with blood, warrior blood, and at the center of it all, she knelt. Her name was Lyraya. She was the widow of Commander Theric, once one of the strongest leaders of the Kari Empire. Now he was gone. His body lay still on the floor beside her, armor broken, chest burned. He died with honor in battle that should have meant something, but for her it meant nothing, not anymore, in Kari. Culture, when a warrior dies, his mate becomes a widow, and a widow, to them, is useless. She must be claimed again or cast out. Claiming is not about love, it is about power. Ownership and tradition. Lyraya stayed still, proud and calm. She had trained for this moment. Since birth, if someone would claim her, they would step forward, touch her shoulder, speak her name aloud. That was the law, but no one moved. Around the hall stood dozens of warriors, commanders, and nobles, all powerful, all strong. Yet not one stepped forward. Some looked away, some whispered, some laughed quietly. She was too old. They said too broken. Therec's death was a loss. But she was no prize. Even her enemies didn't want her. Her heart burned with shame. But her face showed nothing. She would not beg. She would not cry then. Sound echoed through the hall. Boots slow, soft, and strange. All eyes turned. To the far corner, and from the shadows stepped a human. He was not tall, not powerful. He wore simple gray clothes, a technician's uniform. His tools hung from his belt, and his hands were stained with oil. He looked out of place among armored warriors and glowing banners. He walked calmly toward Lyraya. Some laughed louder now. What was this? A human? Was this a joke? But he didn't stop. He reached her, looked down, and gently touched her shoulder. Then he spoke, clearly, loudly. "Hey, I claim her," he said. The hall went silent again, completely silent. Even the air seemed to stop. Moving, Lyraya slowly looked up. Her dark eyes met his. He was young. Maybe 30 human years. Not handsome, not ugly, just steady. "You can't be serious," someone growled from the side. "She's Kari blood, you're nothing, not even a soldier," another hissed.
Wait.
The human didn't answer them. He only looked at Lyraya, waiting in Kari law. The widow had a choice. She could refuse, but if she refused and no one else claimed her, she would be sent away, alone, stripped of title and honor. Lyraya looked at the others. No one stepped forward, not one. Then she looked at the human again. Something in his eyes was strange. He didn't look at her like the others. He didn't look at her like a burden or a prize. He just saw her. After a long silence, Lyraya spoke. Her voice was soft, but steady. "I accept." The crowd exploded. Voices rose in anger, disbelief, and shock, but it was done. The law was clear. He helped her stand. She stood tall, her head high, and for the first time since her mate's death, she felt something strange. Not pride, not sadness. Something warmer. As they walked out of the hall, the human spoke to her. "My name is Kale," he said. "I'm sorry for your loss." She said nothing. But she noticed how he walked beside her, not in front, not behind. As an equal, she didn't trust him. Not yet, but she was curious. Why would a human claim her? Why risk the shame, the insult? The danger? Lyraya didn't know, but deep inside, something had shifted. Her story was not over. Maybe. It was just beginning. Kale had made a choice no one expected. Not even Lyraya, but now the quiet moment was over. And the storm was coming. 3 guards followed them as they left the great war hall, not to protect but to observe. Kale felt their eyes on his back, cold like knives. Lyraya walked beside him without a word. Her long silver cloak trailed behind her. Stained with ash from the ritual fire, she didn't look at him. She didn't speak, but she didn't resist either. They stepped into the outer corridor, glowing blue walls, tall ceilings, and banners that waved without wind. This was the heart of Kari power, a place where humans usually kept their heads low. But Kale walked straight, slow, and unafraid. Whispers followed them like shadows. "Is that the human?" He really claimed her? What is he thinking? Kale could hear them all, but he kept walking. He had seen enough of this empire to understand one thing. Honor meant everything to them. But not kindness, not compassion. That's where they were weak. He had read their laws, watched their politics, studied their patterns, and when he saw Liraya standing alone, something inside him moved. She didn't need saving. She needed someone to see her. They entered the lower decks of the station. Here, the air was warmer, the lights softer. This was human space. Not grand, but functional. Clean metal floors. Humming machines. Soft humming of AI systems. Kale guided her into his quarters. The room was small. A bed, a chair, a workstation with floating screens. Simple but private. Liraya finally spoke, her voice cool and sharp. You did not need to do this. Kale didn't turn to face her. He removed his tool belt, placed it gently on the desk, and answered, I know. She stepped forward, her boots silent. Then why? Kale looked at her now, really looked. Her face was fierce, strong jaw, silver eyes. Warrior lines on her cheekbones, but there was something else beneath it, something tired, something waiting. He didn't smile. He just said the truth, because no one else did. Liraya narrowed her eyes. That is not reason, Kale nodded. Maybe not for a Kari, he said, but for a human. Sometimes that's enough. There was a long pause, a quiet kind of silence, not cold like the hall, but uncertain. Then she asked, What do you want from me? Kale walked over to the console and poured 2 cups of synth tea. He handed one to her. She looked at it suspiciously, then took it. I don't want anything, he said. I just didn't like how they looked at you. That made her pause. Liraya had seen many battles, heard many lies, but this one didn't sound like a lie. It sounded strange. Suddenly, the door buzzed. Kale opened it, and a small drone floated in a message from command. He scanned it quickly. His face hardened. What is it? Liraya asked. They're reassigning. Me, Kale said. Maintenance shift. On the edge of the rim worlds, she raised an eyebrow. Because of me? Kale shrugged. Probably. Liraya looked at the message. Then at him. You should break the claim. She said quietly. It is not too late, human. Kale looked at her calm, but firm. Not happening. Liraya stared at him for a moment longer, then turned away. He didn't understand what this meant. He didn't know that by claiming her, he had stepped into a silent war, that eyes beyond this station were now watching. Her dead mate had enemies and secrets that would now come for them both. Later that night, Liraya stood alone, watching the stars through the viewport. Kale slept quietly in the next room. She should have felt shame. She should have felt fear. But all she felt was curiosity. Who was this human? Why did he not fear what others feared? Why did he treat her not like a weapon or a relic, but like a person? She didn't know yet, but something inside her whispered. This was not the end of her story. This was the beginning of something else. Liraya stood in the darkness alone, not outside, not inside, but somewhere between. She was in the dream again, the battlefield, burning, silent, her mate's body beside her, ash floating like snow, and far away across the smoke stood the human Kale. He was watching her, but this time, his eyes glowed. Like he knew something. She took one step forward, and the dream shattered. Liraya woke up fast, eyes sharp, breath steady, old soldier reflex. The small human room was quiet. Artificial light pulsed softly along the wall edges. Kale was already awake, sitting at the desk, watching a hollow map flicker in the air. He turned as she moved. Sorry. Didn't mean to wake you, he said. You didn't, she replied. Sitting up, she scanned the room, her eyes catching everything. Exit, tools, drone panel, emergency lock. Always calculating, always ready. Kale pointed at the map. We're leaving today, he said. Transport to the Rimworld, Station 3, Punishment Post. She said flatly. Kale shrugged. Maybe. Then he added, but it's quiet out there. Less eyes. More freedom. She studied him. He wasn't angry, not afraid. He was planning that was unexpected. 3 days later, they arrived. The station on the rim was smaller, older, less patrols, fewer rules. Kale took charge of repairs and systems. As expected, Liraya officially had no role, but she didn't sit idle. Each morning, she trained, not the way she had with her old unit this time. She trained in silence, alone, in the old cargo bay. Blade forms, hand strikes, Kari breathing patterns. Kale watched from above sometimes, quietly. He didn't interrupt. He just observed one day. After she finished, he climbed down the ladder and walked toward her, holding 2 water packs. He tossed one to her. "You move like lightning," he said, "but you stop your blade too early." Here he stepped behind her, gently guiding her arm forward in the air. Humans follow through. More or less elegance? More force? Liraya blinked. "You fight?" Kale gave a small smile. "Used to," he said. "Before I fixed machines, I broke things." She looked at him again, more carefully this time. His arms were lean but scarred, his fingers fast, and in his eyes something hard was buried. "You hide it," she said. He nodded. "So do you." That night, they sat on the outer deck, watching the stars. She asked, "Why do you stay calm? Even when they shame you?" Kale took a long breath, then said, "I used to get angry. I thought respect was something you earned by being right, by being smart. But in the galaxy it doesn't work like that. Then why fight?" She asked, "Because someone has to." Liraya looked down. In Kari culture, weakness was hunted, but humans had a strange kind of strength, not in their bodies, but in their hearts. Later that week, something strange happened. A ship docked. At the far end of the station, unmarked, unofficial, Kale watched it through the security feed. 5 figures exited, tall, armored, not Kari soldiers, not human either, mercenaries. Liraya saw them and froze, her body tense, her breath held. Kale looked at her. "You know them?" "Of them," she said, voice cold. "The one in red armor, that's Verak, friend." "They're not here for repairs." "No." She said, "They're here for me." He turned to her. "What does he want?" Liraya didn't answer at first. Then finally, she said, "My mate had something powerful. Before he died, he hid it. Only I know where." Kale stood up slowly, "And now they want it." She nodded. "They think I'm weak now. They think I'm alone." Kale smiled without humor. "Well," he said, "they're about to be disappointed the next day." Liraya stood beside Kale in the station command room. Watching the mercenaries approach, she was calm, but her hands were ready. Her blade hidden in her sleeve, Kale had already sealed the outer doors, rerouted the security feeds, and sent a quiet warning to Earth Outpost Alpha. Backup would come, but not fast. It was just them, against 5, and Liraya. Or the first time in many cycles, felt something she hadn't felt since her mate died. She felt ready, not because of the blade, not because of the training, but because of the human standing beside her. This wasn't just survival. This was war. And she was not alone anymore. Asterisk. The lights flickered once, then again, then went out. Liraya didn't move. She stood in complete darkness, her breath steady, her blade silent in her hand. She could feel the mercenaries approaching. Every Kari warrior learned to sense motion, air shifts, foot pressure, breath rhythm. These men were trained, but not Kari trained.
Ow.
Beside her, Kale crouched near a wall panel, fingers moving fast. He rerouted power from the lower decks, opened pressure vents, triggered silent alarms. He wasn't a soldier, but he was a builder, and builders knew how to break things too. A voice came through the vent, deep, cruel, familiar. Liraya. It said, "I offer you honor one last time." She closed her eyes. It was him, Verak, her mate's second in command. "Once a friend, now a vulture. I will not kneel to a traitor," she said back, her voice calm. "You should have burned with him." There was silence. Then laughter, low and cold. "I didn't come for you," Verak said. "I came for what he stole." Kale looked up. "What did Derek steal?" whispered. Liraya didn't answer at first, because the truth was, even she didn't know everything, not yet. 3 weeks before her mate died. He changed. He came home late, armor scratched, mind distracted. He started locking his data core, whispering during his sleep. Sometimes he said her name, sometimes. He said, "They'll kill her if I fail." Larea thought it was war trauma, but now it made sense. Before the battle that ended his life, he handed her a small crystal, just a stone. He pressed it into her hand and said, "If I fall, don't trust anyone, not even the Kari." That stone still hung around her neck, hidden in her armor, cold, silent, but always there. She pulled it out and handed it to Kale. His eyes narrowed. "This isn't just a crystal," he said. "This is an AI key." "A what?" she asked. Kale stood quickly, his voice tense. "It's a code lock device. Kari tech, yes, but the interface is old, very old." He turned to the console, inserted the crystal. Lights blinked. A soft hum began, and a deep female voice spoke. "Core Guardian Protocol. Active." Liraya took a step back. That voice wasn't just tech. It was Kari Prime language, the kind only used in ancient war councils. Kale looked at her, shocked. "This is no ordinary key," he said. "This is a control device for something much bigger." Outside, the sound of metal striking metal echoed. The mercenaries were cutting through the outer hatch. Kale moved fast, downloading what he could. On the screen, flashes of data appeared. Coordinates, weapon specs, command codes, then a ship, hidden under the ice rings of a dead planet, registered as Black Vow. A forgotten warship, legend said it could shut down entire fleets. "Your mate wasn't just hiding this," Kale said. "He was protecting it from his own people." Liraya felt something twist in her chest. Was this what he died for? Was this why he never told her the full truth? "He trusted me to finish it," she whispered. The mercenaries broke through, doors exploded inward, and Varric stepped in first. Red armor glowing, blade raised, but Larea was already moving. She struck low, her blade sliding under his guard, sparks flying. Kale ducked behind the console, activated a static barrier. 3 more mercs stormed in, blasters ready. Kale threw a flash core. Light exploded like a second sun. Liraya moved like wind. 1 down, 2 down, 3. Only Varric remained, and he was laughing. "You think this is the end?" he growled. "You can't protect it forever. You're alone." Liraya stepped closer, blade pointed at his chest. "I was alone," she said, "but not anymore." Kale stepped up beside her. Bruised, breathing hard, he raised a stunned weapon and fired. Varric collapsed unconscious. Later, Kale patched his shoulder while Liraya watched the download finish. The AI voice spoke again. "Shiplink active, awaiting command." Kale sat beside her and asked, "What do you want to do now?" She looked at him, eyes dark, but steady. "My mate is gone," she said, "but his purpose isn't. I will find this ship, and I will decide who deserves it." Kale nodded. "Then we go together." She didn't smile, but her voice was softer. "Yes," she said. Together, outside, the stars burned cold and bright. And somewhere, far beyond the rim, the ghost of her mate was watching, not with sorrow, but with peace. Because someone had finally heard his warning, and she was ready now. The station was burning, not with fire, but with silence. Every hallway was still, every door locked, every screen dark, but Liraya could feel it. The trap, the moment before the storm breaks. The moment when predators stop circling and strike. She and Kale moved fast through the lower decks. No time for sleep, no time for fear. Kale carried the AI crystal, tucked inside his jacket. Liraya stayed ahead, her blade ready. Every turn, every door, every shadow could be death. The mercenaries weren't acting alone anymore. Somehow someone powerful was behind them. Someone from inside the Kari Empire. The message came without warning. A voice on the hidden channel, smooth, calm, and cruel. "You are now enemies of the Empire," it said. "The widow carries stolen tech. The human has broken sacred law. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Kale looked at Liraya. She didn't flinch. She simply said, "Faster." They reached Dock Bay for locked, of course. Kale pulled the panel off, hands working like lightning. Liraya stood guard, eyes scanning the shadows. She remembered running once before, long ago when she was young. But that time, she was running from shame. This time, she was running toward something. Cale finished the override. The door hissed open. Their escape ship sat ready. A small, human shuttle, barely armed, but fast. She stepped in first, scanned the cockpit, and powered up the engines. Cale slid into the pilot seat. "I've never stolen a ship before," he muttered. "You're not stealing," she said. "You're escaping. Feels the same," he replied, and launched. The ship roared to life, rising through the dock, but alarms screamed now, defense cannons aimed. Gritted his teeth, hold tight, the ship spun, a wild move, reckless, but it worked. One cannon missed. Two more overheated. They broke through the shield ring and entered open space. But they weren't alone. 3 fighters followed. Kari designed fast, brutal, unforgiving. Lyraya slid into the co-pilot chair, her hands already moving across the weapons panel. "Minimal guns," she said. "No missiles." "We don't need to win," Cale said. "We just need to run." She gave him a glance, a flash of approval. The old Lyraya would have laughed, but the Lyraya sitting here now. She believed him. They flew for hours through asteroid belts and magnetic storms, chased, hunted, exhausted, but they didn't stop. Finally, they reached an old mining field, dead, forgotten, perfect. Cale shut down all systems, cloaked the ship behind debris, and they waited. The fighters scanned once, twice, then vanished. Silence returned, but not peace. Inside the ship, Lyraya sat near the hull, her back against the wall. Cale tossed her a ration pack and sat across. From her, "We need a new plan," he said. "We go to the coordinates," she answered. "Find the ship, the Black Vow." Cale nodded, but he hesitated, then asked if we find it, "What do you want to do with it?" Lyraya didn't answer right away. She opened the ration pack, stared at it, then finally said, "I want to finish what the wreck started. But I want to choose how." Cale leaned back. "And if others come for it?" "Then we decide who's worthy," she said. "No empire, no title, only truth." He smiled, just a little. "You're more human than you think." She looked at him, really looked. This man, once fixed broken pipes, now flying through enemy space, hunted by empires, and she, once called worthless, now holding power feared by galaxies together. They didn't make sense, but maybe that's why it worked. Hours passed. Cale slept for a while. Finally, Lyraya watched over him, silent, then something flickered. A message, ping, encrypted, hidden, buried deep in the AI's core. She opened it, only voice, her mate's voice. "If you're hearing this," it said, "then I am gone, and you're still alive." Lyraya's chest tightened. She closed her eyes, listening. "I did what I had to," the voice said, "but they will never understand. The Black Vow must not fall into Kari hands, or human hands. It must be guarded. Trust only one person with that." He said, "My mate, my shadow, my strength." She pressed her hand to her heart. The cold of space outside, the warmth of memory inside, she whispered, "I will not fail you." Behind her, Cale stirred. She turned off the message, stood up, and faced the stars. They weren't fugitives, not really. They were the last defense, and the real war was just beginning. The galaxy never sleeps, but sometimes it watches, somewhere near the frozen moons of Dallin's grave. A single signal blinked into the void, short, sharp, encrypted, a call not meant for the many, only for the few brave. Enough to answer. Cale had sent it, and now he waited. Lyraya stood behind him, arms crossed, silent. They were aboard a cargo-class vessel they'd hijacked from a pirate yard, held together by rust and faith. It could jump, and right now, that was enough. "Will anyone come?" she asked. Cale didn't look away from the screen. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." "They'll fear the Empire," she said. Cale gave a tired smile. "Good," he said. "Fear means they're paying attention." They arrived at the Black Vow 2 days later, a grave of a ship floating under the rings of ice. It's hidden for decades, untouched by war or scavengers. The hull was old Kari design, but fused with unknown tech, something older. Something dangerous? Lyraya stepped into its command core first. The lights flickered on. Recognizing her blood, her voice, her name, she was not just the widow now. She was the key. Kale followed behind, scanning systems, testing protocols. "It's more than a ship," he said. "It's a weapon. And a promise. A promise of justice. A promise of war." Word spread fast. Whispers across the dark channels. The black vow was active again, and a human, a technician, stood at its helm. It didn't take long. Within a week, they were surrounded. By choices, 3 ships hailed them, 1 human, 1 alien neutral, and 1 Kari rebel vessel. Each asked the same question: "Are you with us, or are you against us?" Kale didn't answer right away. He walked alone into the war room. Tall screens glowing with star maps, fleet positions, threat reports. He stared at the galaxy like it was a puzzle, not a war. A puzzle he could solve. Lyraya watched him from the shadows. She had never seen anyone think like this. Humans were emotional, reactive, wild, but Kale was calm, even when the world wanted him gone. Finally, he turned. "I'm not here to pick a side," he said. "I'm here to reset the board." The Empire sent its first warning, a fleet of 5 warships, parked just outside Vow's sensor range. No words, no message, just presence. Kale didn't flinch. He activated the Black Vow's ancient cloaking pulse. The ships lost lock. Blind, confused, then a single drone flew from the Vow. Slow, unarmed, it reached the lead Empire ship and released a burst of light. All systems on the enemy ship went dark. Engines failed, weapons shut down, crew panicked, then the drone returned. Kale sent one line: "Next time I won't use the lowest setting." Lyraya stood at the edge of the command deck, her voice soft but full of steel. "You've made enemies," she said. Kale looked out at the stars. "Good," he said. "It means we're changing something." She walked closer. "For a man who once cleaned broken pipes, you've become." Very loud, he looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in days, he laughed. "Guess I got tired of hiding." She tilted her head. "Do you believe you can win?" Kale didn't answer right away, then he said, "Not sure. But I believe we can make them lose." The Empire responded fast. Assassins, spies, misinformation. They declared Lyraya a traitor, claimed Kale had corrupted her mind, said the Black Vow was a cursed relic. Not a threat, not real. But more and more rebels joined. Not just Kari, humans, synthetics, outcasts, wanderers. Not for power, but for purpose. And the strange thing was, they listened to Kale. The human, because he didn't promise to rule, he promised something rarer, a voice and a choice. One night, Kale and Lyraya stood outside the ship under starlight. No meetings, no plans, no pressure. "Just silence," she said. "You're not what?" "I expected," Kale replied. "Neither are you." She looked at the stars. "Do you miss Earth?" He thought for a while. "Sometimes," he said, "but not like people expect. I miss not being watched." She nodded. "I miss being unseen too." They stood there, 2 fugitives turned commanders. And in that moment, not warriors. Not heroes, just people. And maybe that was enough. But the peace didn't last. A message came, urgent. A superweapon was moving, controlled by an elite Kari fleet. Target, Black Vow, and Earth. Time was up. War was no longer coming. It had arrived. Kale turned to Lyraya, ready to break everything. She nodded once. "Let's make them remember." "What we are?" he smiled. "No," he said. "Let's make them afraid of what we could be." In the stillness before the final battle, Kale stood alone beneath a view of endless stars. He wasn't a warrior. Not by blood, not by training. He had no royal name, no ancient title, but here he was standing between empires and ruin. Because somehow, without meaning to, he had become something bigger. Not by force, but by choice. The Black Vow drifted silently above the frozen world of Scylla's Prime. Below, the elite Kari fleet gathered 30 warships. all pulsing with power at their center, a weapon that shouldn't exist. An energy core built to erase entire cities with a single beam. They were not just coming to destroy Kale and Lariah. They were coming to erase a story, to silence an idea inside. The Vow's war room, Kale stood with Lariah and the commanders from the rebel ships. They had no fleet of equal size. No army of millions, just a handful of ships. A legendary ghost ship and the will to stand. Kale looked around the room. "These aren't just soldiers," said their survivors. "And if we fall, let it be for something that matters." Lariah nodded once. "Let it be for choice," she said. The battle began like a storm. Kari ships fired in perfect formation. Plasma beams streaked across space. The rebels scattered, dodged, hit back with everything they had. But the Empire's forces were too many. Too fast, too brutal. Inside the Vow, Kale activated the ancient AI core. The voice returned, calm. "Old, powerful, final protocol unlocked," it said. "Do you wish to engage override sequence?" Kale looked at Lariah. She gave a single nod. "We fight with truth," she said. Kale placed his hand on the control panel. Engage. The black Vow lit up like a second sun. Waves of invisible pulses shot out, not to destroy, but to disconnect. One by one, enemy ships lost targeting. Lost comms, lost control. But the superweapon still charged. It was independent, wired directly to the core of the fleet flagship. If it fired, it would erase the Vow and the rebel ships beside it. "We have minutes," Kale said. "I'll go," Lariah said immediately. "No," Kale replied. "I will." She stepped in front of him. "This is not your war," she said. Kale looked at her, tired, proud, unafraid. "It became mine when I claimed you," he said. "Not as property, not by law, but because I chose to." Silence, then she said, softly, "You are not just human. You're something rarer." Kale boarded a small infiltration pod. His plan was simple and suicidal. Get close enough to the flagship board and upload a virus through the Vow-linked AI crystal. If it worked, the weapon would shut down. If it failed, he would never return. Lariah watched from the Vow. No words, no goodbye, just a look. A look that said everything. "I believe in you. Come back, or die free." Inside the Empire's flagship, Kale moved like a ghost. No soldier expected a human to board them alone. No alarm was raised, not fast enough. He reached the core, placed the crystal. The AI inside sparked to life. Authorization confirmed. It said, the override began, but security breached the door seconds later. Kale had no weapon, only words. "Don't do this," he said, facing them. "You fight for fear. I fight for choice." The guards didn't pause. They raised their rifles. Kale closed his eyes, and then, a pulse, the override completed. The weapon shut down, and every Empire screen blinked one final message. "Cannot erase what we remember." Back on the Vow, Lariah watched the weapon power die. The fleet hesitated, and then began to retreat without their great weapon, without control. They feared chaos more than war. She waited for Kale's signal, waited, but none came. The Vow called again and again, silence, and then one ping, weak but real. Escape pod launched. The AI said, "Human life signs detected." Lariah ran to the lower decks. Heart pounding like thunder, when the pod opened and she saw him bruised, burned, alive, she didn't speak. She just pulled him into her arms for the first time. The warrior wept. Months later, peace talks began. Not because the Empire changed, but because the people had. The story of the widow and the humans spread, not just as myth, but as proof. That strength isn't always blood, that honor isn't only war, that what makes us human is the courage to choose kindness, even when the world doesn't. And Kale, the technician, became a legend. Not because he fought, but because he stood beside a woman the galaxy cast aside, and together they built something no weapon could destroy: hope.